Being queer, I think, is mostly about ek-tarfa romance only. Because you end up usually crushing on people that don't like you back. There was this boy. He was damn cute. The first thing that my mum said, when I came out as queer was, "Are you gonna grow boobs?" Those professors who didn't get me and made my life hard. I hope you're enjoying watching me on your screen.
And among students, I feel like, okay, the world still has it in it to be better.
Where a professor was there and he was saying these things that lesbianism is mental derangement. All of my classmates sitting around me, they would just look at me. I remember feeling like such a circus animal. It just got to a point in college where I was so depressed and so absolutely done with life. I thought that if my life ends today, I don't want to leave this world living as a man. My father, he's the same man today that's like, listen, if shadi is happening, you tell me. We'll plan it properly. And
Sweet.
if you're not proud of me, if you're not proud of my achievements and what I've done with my life, then you have no business being in my life. My own father is proud of me. Who are you? It's like that.
A DM you'd like to send to Shah Rukh Khan.
I want to work with you. Can you imagine Shah Rukh Khan with a trans woman actor? It would change the country forever. So, Nikhil and Friends, is it?
It's actually Maybelline Presents BraveTalk with Nikhil and Friends.
Fair enough. But friends, you said. So, we're friends? What's my birthday?
I thought we were really good friends.
Okay, so when is my birthday?
I wished you on your birthday.
Okay, so when is it?
It's June 17th.
That's actually correct.
Friend?
Sus. I don't buy it. Okay, I will go and touch up and come back.
I will see you soon, friend.
See you. Bye. Oh my God. There we go.
Welcome everyone to Maybelline Presents BraveTalk with Nikhil and Friends. This is a new show we are doing at Yuva where the intention is to go into campus spaces and create safe spaces for students. Today, the friend that I have is one of the most inspiring voices on the Indian internet, and also I think the most inspired people that I know. With the kind of work that you do, the kind of person that you are, everything that you stand for, everything that
Very sweet.
you do in the art that you have.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That is so sweet. Oh my God.
But it's all true. We're so excited to have you over here.
Likewise.
How are you feeling being you were not in Bombay camp in colleges, right?
No. This is my first time being in a college in Bombay. I'm getting anxious because I have really bad college memories, but these guys have been so sweet. It's wonderful to be back. And to know that you taught here and created safe spaces here makes me even happier.
I am quite excited being back in the campus that I used to teach.
How many years has it been for you since?
I stopped teaching in 2018. I taught for 7 years and now I'm back after 7 years to the same campus. So really, really nice being back here. And we'll get into some of the deeper, more meaningful parts, but it could be really fun because we are in a campus space and there's a lot of students have confessions that they typically put online.
Oh my God,
and
that's
are
scandalous.
anonymous. Yeah.
Scandalous.
Let's see. We've asked Jai Hind students also.
Oh my God.
It's in this box.
Cool. Everyone knows how a boy should ask out a girl, but when it's a boy asking out another boy, there's no script, just plain awkwardness.
Wow.
Aw, I think for me, I remember being in college and I was still a boy at that time. It was so confusing to see all of my friends be in relationships or have crushes or whatever, and I was like this awkward queer boy that didn't know how to go about attraction. I know that Bollywood creates a script in some ways for a boy and a girl, but in real life, no one has a script because everyone's different, whether you're a boy, girl, trans, whatever. I think what ends up mattering in a real connection is that awkwardness. It's delicious. I love awkwardness in interactions with people you like because that's just part of being human.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out, but at the same time, enjoy the awkwardness. Awkwardness is part of being alive and human, and life is not perfect. Crushes are not perfect. Love is not perfect. So,
So well said. So well
Yeah.
said. Whoever thinks that boys know how to ask out girls. I've been to so many
It's
campuses
not.
across the country. The one thing that I keep hearing from the young women in campuses is people don't really know what is the perfect way of asking each other out. They're
especially
all
now with Gen Z, people are like skibbity toiletries. God knows what people are talking about on social media. I'm like, what is this language? How do you talk? And I would say enjoy it. If you have connection and you feel it and you have that in your heart, that is such a beautiful thing to experience at any point in your life with any gender.
lovely.
I told my crush's bestie I wanted to ask her friend out. Wait. I told my crush's bestie I wanted to ask her friend out.
Okay.
Crush's bestie's friend.
Correct.
She thought I meant her and was thrilled. I feel like now everyone asks each other out on Instagram. It's a thing. And
This
then
reminds
moving
me,
on.
by the way, of like a really traumatic memory for me because there was a very close friend of mine who used to like a girl within the group of friends that we had. And
That's such a bad idea, first of all. In
it
a
is,
group
I
of
completely
people,
agree. And now what happened is that I kind of knew that the girl doesn't like him. So I would always keep discouraging him and being like, "Kya karna hai tere ko? Chhod,
That's
it's okay,
really
you'll
sad.
find somebody else, right?" Now, he thought the reason that I am discouraging
Is
him
because you
is because
like-
I like her.
Oh my God.
So he went and told her that I like her. And then she was really upset with me saying that
Oh
I thought
my
you were
God.
friends. Why would you like think that there is more? And I was like, who thought that? I did not think it. By the way, like interestingly, those two people are married, about to have a child. So clearly, it worked out for
Nice.
them.
You want to
So-
hear my weird crush in this thing college story? It's ridiculous.
Please, of course.
For those of you that don't know, I'm trans and I transitioned in college. I was between third and fourth year of my MBBS, and that's when I realized who I am and what I wanted to be. And I think living as a boy, it was always difficult as a child. I never understood why I felt like I was so different. And it was painful, right? Because you try and fit in and you be as masculine and manly as you can be. I went to the gym, I got a six pack, I became macho for a bit. Part of that experience was also being in medical school and living in boys' hostel, where have you lived in a boys' hostel? Anybody? No? It's this really testosterone charged party where guys are like, hoo, and like, it's like we're talking about like girls a certain way, and it's just an environment, right? Where if you're different, not even as a trans person, even as a man, right? If you're different and don't fit into that, you become like a target of jokes and you're not masculine or manly enough or whatever. And so I think to be there was very bad, but there was this boy. He was damn cute. And I was like, I don't want to scare him. Because with us as queer people, we're so scared about scaring people with our presence and our identity. If we tell them, or if we even hint that we might have feelings in some capacity, you lose a friend.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose a friend, right? So, and in fact, when most boys are bullies to you, but you have one or two nice friends who are kind to you, you will definitely have a crush on one of them, okay? Because they're being so cute. So I didn't want to, creep him out. But in boys' hostel, we were chilling and we had come back from a party, so we were a little drunk. Turns out he was into me too.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know he was queer also, and that ended up being my first experience actually liking somebody and then liking me back.
How nice.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that it worked out. Ek tarfa romances are just the worst, right? Because then you just have to
Yeah.
kind of keep waiting.
Being queer, I think, is mostly about ek tarfa romance only, because you end up usually crushing on people that don't like you back.
No, I think on that note, we've heard student confessions, and while you've also already spoken about
One
your,
confession.
yeah, I'm going to just read out a statement and you have to tell me a confession that comes to mind when you think of it.
Okay.
The most adventurous thing you did with your college bestie.
So my friend at the time, uh, a girl, I've always usually had like a female best friend, and we were like, okay, how do we make you feel more comfortable with your body? And my therapist was saying that if you're uncomfortable, you need to explore.
Yeah.
So the first thing we did is we went to Udupi and got my nose pierced. Because ear piercings were technically not allowed. And for a medical student who needs to fit a dress code, to get a nose piercing was a scandal. I was thrown out of anatomy class like this, like immediately. And the HOD was like, you will not enter any of my classes, and instructed all of the other teachers to also not let me in. So, and the thing is, attendance trauma is real, bro. Fuck.
Of course it is.
It's really hard. I think at that point in time, not being able to go to classes because you have a piercing was bizarre and really dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to find myself and be who I want to be. If you don't care about the subject or teacher or whatever, it's one thing. But if you love what you're doing, and then people are not seeing your potential because of prejudice, that's painful. Eventually, everybody realized that I had the right to express myself. And professionalism can't be about one small piece of metal sitting on your nose.
Yeah.
It's about how you behave with people and how they feel in your presence.
A lot of the teachers get their self-worth from being a professor in an institution like this. And if the student is not listening to them, then also sometimes ruining their lives, you know, which is a terrible and sad thing. Okay, the one moment which made you question your decision to pursue medical.
I think I realized that I actually really like wearing saris. And sometimes I want to take a picture and post it on Instagram, but that's not professional as a doctor. And all of these arbitrary rules and regulations that we create in society about this gender can do this, that gender can't do that. It becomes amplified in a conservative profession, you know. And that's when I started seeing what the internet had to offer, and my story resonated with people. You know, and I think that gave me this first boost of confidence that this world of medicine need not be my entire world, and that my life can be saved, yes, by doctors, clearly, as a trans person, but also by people in media. Had I not seen Ghazal on TV and that episode of Satyamev Jayate, at that point, I would have not come out. She was everything to me. Like, showing my parents this person, and my parents being like, oh, so it's possible for someone to be trans and to have a happy life was news, right? And I think it's news to a lot of parents even today.
Ghazal's a really dear friend of mine, so this is such a wonderful thing to know. I mean, I admire her so much, and she's such a cool person overall. So thank you for sharing this. I'm actually trying to understand purely even from a student perspective. So many students have so many things that they would like to do in their lives, and they do not have the courage, the bravery to take a decision that will work for them but may not necessarily work for society, for their parents. What made you be so sure of who you are and decide that I'm going to go about living my life authentically?
I think gender is one of those things that you feel so deeply and so internally that, you know, it's actually a marker in pediatrics that you ask a child what is your gender at age 3 or 4 and they know.
Oh.
It's a developmental milestone. And many children start experiencing gender dysphoria or a mismatch between their sex and their gender at that age. And for me, I think it definitely started at that age. And for me, it just got to a point in college where I was so depressed and so absolutely done with life that it just didn't make sense to keep living like this. I remember being in boys' hostel wondering, I don't think I should be alive. And that seemed like a great idea on some days. And that scared the hell out of me because I think we all have low points in our lives. Makes me emotional to talk about. Hold it together. But yeah, it was a really dark time in my life. And I think I realized that there's only one way to live, and that is being who you really are. And nothing is more important than that. And I was like, no matter how hard, I will be myself. And honestly, that was the best decision I ever took in my entire life. And I don't regret it one bit. And I think that's the one decision that I will never regret, you know. So yeah. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
No, no, this
I
is,
feel like
thank you so much for opening
being
up.
emo is so normal and so this thing, but my makeup is going to get spoiled. Yeah, I think college can be hard for a lot of people, and it takes something. You're right. It takes an enormous amount of courage and bravery to just decide once and for all that this is who I am.
When you look back at 18, 19-year-old Trinetra at that time, what do you see today
You're going to make me
in
cry
comparison?
so hard today, man. What are you doing? What do I see in 18 or 19-year-old Trinetra?
Yeah.
I was a very unhappy person. I think I was a deeply unhappy person, and I was pretending to be very happy every day. And I think people think that depression means looking like one dukhi atma all the time. That's not true. Or, you know, being mentally ill in some capacity or having issues, it doesn't mean that you can see it on people's faces. You know, very often people look very happy. They look okay, but they're dealing with things in private. And I think I was very much that person who was trying hard to be what my parents wanted me to be, which is that stoic, macho guy who's just not affected by anything, had no feelings. Because I was already so feminine in other ways. The way I walked, the way I spoke to people. I couldn't change that. And I think there is such a culture of, like in India or anywhere, that you cannot tell people that you're not okay. But I'm so glad that, you know, a lot of us young people in the industry had people before us. And even in the trans community, like Sushant, and who came out very recently as trans. But back then, you know, Sushant was a queer man and was living as a queer man. And to sort of lay that groundwork so people can accept more conversation is beautiful. And I think that's the one thing that keeps me going, like to wake up and to be like, there is so much work to be done for this community. So if I were to meet that 18, 19-year-old today, I would just be like, here is a sari, wear it. That's my love language. I think like all of the girlfriends in my life, I constantly give people saris because I feel like it's such a symbol of freedom to me. You know, to lehrao your pallu in front of society when everyone's telling you that you're a crazy person is powerful. And
So well
I
said.
think now, like, I just sometimes think about those professors or those teachers who didn't get me and made my life hard. I hope you're enjoying watching me on your screen.
No, I'm so glad to hear that, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
it's gotten better. At that time, when you were going through something, what was keeping you going? What was the support system? Did you have one at that time?
At that point in time, I thought that if my life ends today, then it's going to be my old name everywhere. Like
Wow.
it's going to be that name on social media or like wherever. And I don't want to leave this world living as a man. You know, if it happens, it has to happen glamorously. As myself, I have to experience this world in my true body and in my true identity for some time. And I think that idea that there is a version of myself out there that I need to access that is not here yet, that kept me going. I was just following that voice because there were times that my parents didn't understand either. They get it now. But the first thing that my mum said, you know, when I came out as queer was, are you going to grow boobs?
Wow.
Because I can't take that. Like, that's too much LGBT for me. And I was like, I get it now, you know, because it's not easy for any parent when a child has an unconventional path. And then I think when my parents went to therapy and started understanding things themselves, then those 3-4 years later, they became more of a support system in my life, for sure.
That's quite a cool thing to hear that your parents went to therapy.
Yeah. that never happens, right?
Yeah. Was it at their own decision? Was it something that you pushed them to do?
So there was a friend of theirs who was a psychologist, and he knew that this was happening. And so, mom was like, let's chat and see. And that's what happened. And now, my God, my mom will look at all of this therapy, speak on Instagram and be like, do you have abandonment issues? I'm like, what? And she'll be like, generalized anxiety. She knows all the words now, and it's really like, wow.
Wow.
I think for them to access therapy and to do the work was my biggest blessing in some ways. Because if they hadn't done that, they wouldn't have supported my transition. When I started making money off of content and acting and things, I could fund the rest of my transition.
Yeah.
But those first few initial steps was them. I think if you've brought a child into this world and they're queer or gay or bi or whatever,
Yeah.
you have a responsibility to support that child. And even if it's a career choice you don't agree with, a partner you don't agree with, or whatever, they're still your child. Like,
Absolutely.
you should be allowed to go back home and be like, Mom, help, And I think to have that support system now is a privilege. It really is.
To have parents who actually understand you is a privilege, no matter where you are and who you are. I really feel so.
I have a question. How many of you in the room think your parents understand you? Show of hands. I'd say like a good 30-40%. I just want to say one thing. I feel like as kids, right, we really expect our parents to be perfect, and we expect them to be this position of authority that they know everything.
Yeah.
They know how to be with you. It's not true. They will never be perfect. Even if you're 30 years old, they will not understand certain things about you. And so much of becoming an adult is just knowing that, okay, I will accept them as they are.
Yeah.
I can't change them beyond a certain point, and I will go and have my own life and career and whatever outside of that space.
Yeah.
But our parents are human beings. They're imperfect people, as are we. No one is perfect.
I find this fascinating that your parents actually decided to go for therapy to understand their child better. That is just, I think, like a radical thing that I've heard.
That's true. For them, it started with language. My mother is Bengali. My father is Telugu. So the thing is, with Bengali and Telugu being two completely different languages, gender is also different, no? So for them to use the right pronouns in Telugu and Bengali and stuff, it was very complicated for them. So I think they needed help to figure out, firstly, okay, this is my daughter. And when they believed that, it started changing in their language. But that initial step of, okay, we need help, it mostly came because there was this, sounds cheesy, but unconditional love in some ways for their kids, where they were like, we can't have anything bad happen to you medically. If she goes and does something and it doesn't work, or there's a mistake, it's irreversible, right? So they knew that education and health are two things that we will not compromise on, which means we have to understand our child better, no matter what that takes. And that is what led them to,
how amazing,
invest in that as a process.
I mean, that is genuinely, full marks to them for being parents who would go to that step for their child.
That's not a lot of parents do it.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, I've now at this point been to over 150 campuses in India. And the number one thing that I keep hearing from young people about any of the mental health issues that they go through is that my parents don't understand me. It is really like the crux of what makes so many young people go through depression, go through anxiety, that I want to be something, I want to be somebody, but I wish my parents would understand. I wish they would see me for who I want to be versus who they want me to be, which is always the biggest barrier in young people
100%.
even finding happiness in their lives. So I actually, for you, I can't even imagine how hard it must be. You are doing, you're taking up medical, and that is something that you eventually end up not pursuing full time. And then you are going through something in your identity as well, that again is something that you'll have to explain to your parents. How are you having both of these conversations parallelly?
I was a bad kid. Okay. I was a good kid for a long time, and then I was like, I don't want to be a good kid anymore. The thing about being a good kid in India or anywhere in the world is if you don't have any needs, you don't ask for anything.
Yeah.
Right? The second you need support, the second you need things, that's when you start becoming a not so good kid. And then if you do something that's opposite to what people want of you, then you're a really bad kid.
Yeah.
So as long as I was a good kid, I realized I wasn't happy at all. And if it was getting me to a point of not wanting to live, then I was like, fuck that shit. Like, I don't want to be this person in my life where I'm this unhappy. It's not worth it.
What was the good kid? What were you doing or being asked to do as a good kid?
Don't fight with people. Don't walk like a girl. Don't talk like a girl. Don't play with the girls.
Wow.
Don't cry. Get straight A's. Play sport. Don't do girly things in school like dance, and that list goes on, right? So you try and you fit the idea of what people think is good because that is what a child knows. And then you realize that that's a load of bullshit. And that's when I realized that we've got to do better. And there was a rebellious side in me that just had to come out. Yeah. But I'm curious to ask, like, everyone sitting here, do you feel that with your careers? Do your parents like force you into doing things you don't want to do? Does that happen still?
If you have any questions, any thoughts from everything we discussed right now, please feel free to.
I love your hair. It's so cute.
Thank you. Do you feel like your parents indirectly kind of because of like keeping up with the expectation, like science students are smart. Like in my case, my mom used to say like जो साइंस लेते हैं उनमें दिमाग होता है और जो कॉमर्स और आर्ट्स के होते हैं उनमें इतना लॉजिकल थिंकिंग नहीं होता. So do you feel like what are your parents' occupation like?
So my mum is an architect and my dad is an engineer.
Yeah.
And they were both science people and they were like, science is science. So my parents, when I told them that I want to step away from being a doctor, I was in my internship, which is your last year of medical school. And I gave the audition because I was like, why not?
This is made in heaven.
This is made in heaven. And when I got the part, I was like, Zoya Akhtar wants to cast me? That's crazy. And I went and I told my parents, and the first thing my mom said was, you don't want to be a doctor anymore? I was like, what? That's your first reaction? And even they were like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And, you know, there was a lot of that pressure at home that, okay, you're stepping away from medicine. And to be very honest with you, I come from a very middle class family where we don't have like, you know, my parents were not like, you come back, we'll support you through acting. They were not like that. They were like, if you're doing this, it's on you. Like, we're not going to pay any money whatsoever. It's your life. Now things have changed a little bit because they see how much I love it. But it was a lot of pressure making that call and shifting to Bombay. So I think, first of all, yeah, this whole science law, you'll be smart thing is bullshit. Like, it's just not true. If that were true, then all of my professors would have been very supportive. They were not. They didn't understand me. They didn't support me. And yeah, in forensic medicine, it's a subject, in second year. So we have a chapter called sexual perversions. In that chapter on sexual perversions, it talks about homosexuality and trans identity and like all of these things in a very outdated way. So I remember that class so vividly where a professor was there and he was saying these things that like, you know, lesbianism is mental derangement and, you know, homosexuality is this and that and trans people are basically a lot of garbage. And I remember sitting there, all of my classmates sitting around me, they would just like look at me.
Damn.
When the professor was saying these things and they would make eye contact with me and look at me. And I remember feeling like such a circus animal. I was like, what am I actually? Am I this? You know, am I a joke? And it's taken so long to then, we approached the Chennai High Court actually, Justice and Anand Venkatesh saying that this is what's happening in medical schools. And he was like, why don't you write me a report? And I wrote an extensive report on how LGBT people are treated in medical school, even in the syllabus.
Wow.
And he, along with other such reports, passed a directive asking the National Medical Commission to remove all this nonsense from textbooks.
So it's gone now?
It's happening. Textbooks are
wow.
actually being revised and changed.
Insane. Wow.
And yeah, it's like that felt like such a win when that happened, because I was like, I will not sit in a classroom and be taught amongst other people that I am some sort of disorder or disease. I am just as normal as you, just as beautiful, if not more, than you. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that people from this community will not be pathologized in a hospital. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Hello, you look beautiful today, first of all.
You.
So my question for you is, how do you set boundaries with people who does not respect your identity as a trans?
One of my boundaries in any relationship, romantic or otherwise, is disrespect. I feel like disrespect is such a major red flag. I will not tolerate it in any capacity. And disrespect is not being called chakka to your face. That is obvious, right? But disrespect can be very subtle also. But
Can you give an example when you say, for you specifically, what is...
Yeah. So I think that as a trans person, something that happens, this is TMI, major TMI, telling you now only, sorry. In romantic relationships, something that I realize is when you're with a man, right, there is so much prejudice and transphobia in society that they get very embarrassed to be seen with you in public spaces. And when you're also someone that's known online or whatever, that gets worse, because then, you know, you could be recognized and then they would be seen with you. And that is a hard boundary for me. If you're not proud of me, if you're not proud of my achievements and what I've done with my life, then you have no business being in my life. That's a solid boundary, you know. If you are not as proud of me as I am of myself, which itself has been such a hard thing to do, my own father is proud of me. Who are you? You know, it's like that. It's basic, but it's true.
But this is, I must say, thank you so much, first of all, for sharing so many of these things and doing it over and over again. I know that you have said this in so many different forums, and, you know, you repeat yourself. And I feel
As
like...
we should,
Yeah,
you
and,
know.
you know, and I know that there is a certain amount of labor that is put on you to be able to do this work, when I feel like now it is also the job and responsibility of society to be doing equal amount of labor in understanding it ourselves. You know, at the very least, it should be about empathy, right? And I feel like that is where most of our society struggles, even at this point of time. Like, you know, do you think that there is more acceptance? Do you think that there's a shift? Are things getting better?
I feel like in some ways, social media has made it better for us to have access to people. But a problem that didn't exist earlier is online harassment. Because someone is fine in a classroom, cool. But when they go back home and they're harassing you on Instagram or on any other platform, that can be really difficult for a child. And I see, you know, lots of kids dealing with harassment and, like, to the point of taking their own lives happen all the time. Every year there are cases that this happens. There was this child called RV, right? And his mother, Aarti Malhotra,
I know the
was
case, yeah.
a teacher at a particular school, and RV took his own life after being really badly harassed online and offline by his classmates. And I feel like it's unfortunate, but it does still happen. And in fact, with content creators and influencers and actors having a platform to share their opinions, if you're transphobic and misogynistic and have a platform, that's dangerous. Some accountability for, you know, prejudice on social media does need to happen.
This is a question that I grapple with a lot, you know, because of course, with everything that we try to do at Yuva, we try to address it in some way. How do you inculcate empathy into a online generation of young people, you know? And I feel like right now we're living in a world where the loudest, most mean voices also get the most retweets. They get the most likes.
Outreach and
Yeah,
things
they
like
get the
that.
most reach. Right? So when that is your reality, when algorithms also in many ways are pushing cruelty or mean spiritedness as much as possible. How do you make empathy cool and inclusivity cool? And how do you inculcate it, in spaces both offline and online? I'm sure there's some thought you must have given to this as well.
I think it's important for more and more of us to use that platform to talk about empathy and queerness and not use it as some sort of like joke, just as you do, as someone with a platform. You make space for important conversations or conversations that can feature even in entertaining ways for that matter, right? Like a Badhai Do as a movie was wonderful.
Absolutely.
And it was very entertaining but also very wholesome. So people who want to create spaces online for change will do it. But even otherwise, to just build that conversation over and over and over until it's normal, that's important.
No, absolutely.
And so thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
No, thank you for always, as I said, doing the labor, because it's hard to talk about these things, I would imagine, every time you talk about them. Finally, I just actually, because you've also mentioned therapy so often in this conversation, I want to ask you, what is that one thing that has helped you most in therapy?
I think as an individual, I really did not believe that I have any worth as a human being. I think you always feel like bachpan se log taane marte hain, and you just grow up thinking that you don't deserve anything in life or that you are not worthy of happiness.
Yeah.
And when you operate from that space as a person, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways. You choose friends and people and equations that don't make you happy. And it's taken a long time in therapy, but I finally feel like I'm proud of this, of what I've built and the body I have and the identity I've created over time. And that's a great feeling.
That's
That's
amazing.
a lovely feeling to have. What about you? What's your biggest therapy takeaway?
Therapy was the reason why I ended up starting UA and Be a Man, in many ways, because therapy made me realize that a lot of the anxiety that I was going through in my life was because of masculinity. It was the gender norms that I was trying to fit myself into, that the world was trying to fit me into. And I realized that that is not the path that I wanted to be in life. I didn't want to live my life only living out the milestones that a man in society has to go through. In fact, now that I'm in Jai Hind, I must say that the two things that compelled me to start Yuva, one was therapy, the second was Jai Hind. I used to come here and I started something called the Kindness Project. It was a project that I did with my students where at the end of every semester, we would create what I didn't know at that time was a safe space. So we would create a safe space with young people coming in, my students coming in and sharing who they are outside of what the world judges them to be.
Yeah.
It was 2 days of people just
Okay.
coming and sharing their stories, and then everybody would cheer them, support them, hug them, like, let's do this. So it really became life-changing for me.
Yeah.
Today, while I'm saying that, I must also thank folks like Maybelline New York, because if I'm able to do something like this, it is because of brands like them who are supporting us in this kind of an initiative. So huge cheers to them. One of the biggest things about therapy is one step at a time. What is a step in therapy for your mental health that you have taken over the years that has really helped you on a daily basis?
I take a walk.
Oh, wow.
That sounds really basic.
But it's great.
But I take a really long walk, and either really early in the morning or really late at night, where there's not a lot of people and it's just me and the city and my neighborhood. And I feel like that really grounds me as a person. I feel like no matter what is happening in my head, sometimes you forget to just step out and breathe fresh air.
Yeah.
And, look at what's around you. And I sit sometimes in bandstand with my mask on and like that. And just watch people. I love watching people. Like from a corner, like a fly on the wall. Because I feel like that's such a fascinating thing to do. You learn so much about how people walk, talk, behave. laugh, cry, what someone in love looks like, or what someone who's sad. And it reminds me that I'm human and that, I'm also one among people. I'm no different because I'm trans.
That's so sweet.
I love that. And the second is cutting people out. I just
Love
yeah.
that. I want to end on family because you've obviously done such a journey with them and their support over the years. Can you tell me something that just kind of reminded you of how far you have come?
To think that my father was somebody who said कि ये लोग पागल हैं, like these people need therapy. He's the same man today that's like, listen, if shadi is happening, you tell me. We'll plan it properly and
That's sweet.
He's that person. And he's also someone who's come to Bangkok with me for those 30 days when I was recovering from my surgery. He doesn't understand every decision I make, but to have that sort of fatherly, daughterly relationship is so beautiful. And I'm so glad I have it. I never thought that would happen. I thought maybe he will be okay with it, but I never thought that he would love me as a daughter. And when I see that, it's so wholesome. Yeah.
Wow.
Mums had it harder in some ways because she lost her mother very young, right? So she had to deal with her teenage years, her adulthood, her marriage on her own. So she didn't have another woman to talk to about these things. So her support shows up in like really small feminine ways. When I wear a sari that she gives me,
Wow.
or when I wear something I stole from her closet and she's like, you wear it better than I do. Those things matter. I think it's really nice to have that.
If there is a friend for all of these young people here who they can see is struggling with their identity, struggling with their body, any advice or any way that a friend can make someone else feel supported at this point of time?
I think sometimes it's that simple. People think that support is like hajar things, but support is in normalcy. That you come out to me and nothing changes. That if you're a friend and I love you, then I continue to love you regardless of your identity and who you are. And that's important. When that changes is when it hurts, So the first thing is, if you have a friend and they come out to you, don't change your friendship. They're still the same person, right? And if you know that someone is already queer and is having a hard time, try and make friends. Try and be friendly. Try and understand what they're going through. It's not so difficult. That's not to say be best friends with everybody from the community. Any community can have lots of horrible people also. I think that kindness, empathy, and cruelty are universal, irrespective of gender, irrespective of sexuality, happens everywhere. But let not LGBT be the reason you don't like someone. You know what I mean? Like, that's a really bizarre reason to not like someone. If you feel like someone's having a hard time, is interacting with people lesser, is not attending classes, try and check in on them. Because sometimes you never know that they're this close to doing something really damaging and dangerous. And sometimes all you need is that one moment for someone to talk you off the ledge, and it means everything. And the other thing is representation, right? If you're sharing content, if you're making content, try and let people know that you're supportive, that you're an ally, and that is why we constantly, pronouns, people keep talking about this. You don't have to do it. I like to do it. So if you're doing that, that's a wonderful thing for people to know that I'm a safe space.
No, absolutely. I think, one of my proudest moments as a professor, as a teacher at Jai Hind was when in my kindness project, one of the students of my class used that space to come out to his classmates.
Wow.
So for me, that was like, it's still something that I cherish forever. And I realized at that time, oh, this is a safe space. Their classmates.
100%. I would say become a safe space as a person, and when you become a safe space, you find other people that are like that. And that's how you build community. And I just hope that kids are doing that,
this generation I feel far more hopeful than the stuff that I've seen in mine. And that's why I used to teach. That's why I started Yuva. That's why I'm doing these conversations today. Because when I'm among students, I feel like, okay, the world still has it in it to be better. But we're going to end now on this really wholesome note that we always do. It's a rapid fire called sliding into the DMs. I'm going to give you some statements. You just have to tell me the person whose DMs you would slide into and what you would say.
Okay.
A DM you would slide into to say a heartfelt thank you.
Ghazal. 100%.
What would you say?
I would say thank you for showing me that normalcy is possible. Thank you for showing me that opportunity is possible. You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. And thank you for reminding me that we deserve good things. Yeah.
A DM you would slide into to someone who has always stood by you.
Mom. That sounds so basic, but like, I'd be nothing without her.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful answer. A DM you would like to send to the best ally you know.
I think my best friend Anjana, she's an anesthesiologist. Anytime she could be in the operating room and I'll call and I'll be like, I need to talk. And she'd be like, okay, give me 10 minutes. And then in the next hour, we're on a phone call. Can you imagine? So a man doesn't have a chance only. Like that's what he needs to like
That's so sweet.
live up to. But no, in all seriousness, I think that one best friend saves our lives in so many ways and we all need that one person and she's that person.
So true. That's beautiful. A DM you'd like to send to a young queer or trans person you admire.
I would send one to Sanat on Instagram. She's really, really beautiful.
Oh yes, I have.
Sanat
I just
Chadha.
started following her recently. Yes.
So I think, one, the world is a bit of a cruel place, but we have each other. We have community. We have so many of us now thriving and that will only grow. And I just want to tell her that please keep doing what you're doing because it's really heartwarming for me to see. Yeah.
That's wonderful. A DM you'd slide into someone on Instagram who doesn't even know they've made a huge impact on you.
My first grade class teacher, Uma auntie. She still likes my posts to this day.
Aw.
It's been 20 years, okay? And I don't think she realizes what it means to me to start my schooling with her and for her to get it and to be supportive throughout this time means the world. She has no idea.
I just absolutely admire teachers who actually take the time to be so kind and supportive to students. A DM you'd send to someone whose voice you admire on Instagram.
Rida Tarana, because she's such a...
She's too cool.
Yeah, I just love how, where she's come from and how she carries herself. And I don't know, there's something really powerful about a woman who knows her worth and loves herself and her body and isn't afraid to show that love to the whole world. That's amazing.
No, I find her enormously cool. A DM you would like to send to Zoya Akhtar.
Thank you. You changed my life. It's true. It's as simple as that.
A DM you'd like to send to Shah Rukh Khan.
I want to work with you. I really want to work with you. I hope at some point in our lives our paths cross and I'm able to just absorb that magic. And can you imagine like Shah Rukh Khan with a trans woman actor? Like it would change the country forever.
I could totally imagine, honestly.
Like that would be incredible. But like I know some dreams are far-fetched, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? And finally, what is a DM you'd like to send to young Trinetra?
Sab kuch possible hai. Anything that you put your mind to is doable. You just need to put your mind to it. That's it. There will be good days, there will be bad days, but get through it. Just get through the bad day and it'll be fine. Yeah.
That's so sweet. Amazing. Thank you, Trinetra. I'm gonna do a sign off, but I also want to check again. Do you guys have any questions at the end?
जैसे लोग बोलते हैं कि जो ट्रांस लोग होते हैं उनको जॉब्स नहीं मिलती, उनके लिए बहुत हार्ड टाइम होता है, उनको बहुत सफर करना पड़ता है हर एक चीज के लिए. इस जमाने में वो चीज इजी हो गई या इंसान के लिए, या वो चीज अभी भी उस चीज के लिए हार्ड है?
यार, I feel like बहुत hard है, definitely. It's not changed as much as we would like to think, ये है कि conversations होते हैं अभी, Okay, in colleges, at workplaces, thanks to people like you. But has that translated to people getting jobs? No. I'll give you an example. For myself as an actor, right, we are not cast in biological female roles or in cis female roles. Casting directors are still very reluctant to do that. And sometimes I understand that it doesn't fit. But many of us can comfortably do it without
Yeah.
it being an issue at all. And trans roles are not written very often compared to other characters or whatever. So you are told before you enter only that dekho, it's going to take time. And I have made my peace with that. And even if you get the job, to sustain that job, that is even more difficult. To be comfortable at that workplace, is there discrimination? Is there a policy to protect you? Are there washrooms that you can use comfortably? Are people harassing you or not? If that starts to happen, then you can't stay in that job now for more than however long. This is why I think representation is so important, okay? I remember when, Made in Heaven came out, for example, all of my professors messaged me saying, good job. And what I realized is if there is a medical student then in that college who comes out, it's going to be a different experience. And that is how these things will change over time. But time to lagega, It's slow, but it happens. And it's your responsibility also, not just us in the public eye or as an activist. If someone calls someone a chakka or someone uses language that's derogatory towards trans people or cracks a homophobic joke, or if you have a queer friend who is maybe gay or dealing with something, like make sure that they're safe na, make sure that they're not being bullied or being isolated.
Like ऐसे कौन से राइट्स है जो like बहुत ज़्यादा मैंडेटरी है उनके लिए और ऐसी कौन सी चीज़ें जो हम लोग बदल सकते हैं ताकि फिर उनको like comfortness और सारी चीज़ें सेम मिल जाए.
One small example, in the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act, there is a part of that act which says the punishment for sexually harassing or physically harassing a trans person is 6 months to 2 years maximum. For a biological woman, it's 10 years to maximum life imprisonment. So do you see how there's like a obvious disparity where why is it that my body does it have like lesser value or something? That if someone assaults me, the perpetrator should not be punished as severely as someone who does it to a biological female or a cis woman? Like that's insane, Marriage equality is not a thing in the country. If you're transgender on documents or if you're homosexual, you can't get married, right? And if you can't get married, then you can't take medical decisions for your partner. Insurance will not extend to your partner. Taking a home loan together becomes an issue. Changing my passport was the worst thing I've had to undergo with any documentation because you have one person sitting in front of you and they'll be like, you're a woman, really? You have any proof? And sometimes there's a man sitting opposite you, okay? And you can just tell that they're being creepy and they're just asking things just for the sake of it, maze ke liye, to be like, oh ma'am, what's between your legs? And like, it just, those conversations can be so strange because you also want your passport. So like, get it done. So there's a lot that needs to change.
What advice would you give to a young queer folk who is studying in college or school and is getting bullied? Like, how should they tackle it?
If I were someone that was young and dealing with my queerness, I would say the online space is actually wonderful now in the sense that you can reach out to a free counselor or a free professional online, if not offline. Seek a little bit of support because they're at your disposal. Another great thing to do is build community outside of this toxic space, which is what I did. At a time where my classmates and teachers didn't quite get it, my closest friends became a lot of people I know on Instagram. It's very easy to feel isolated, but you're not alone and it does get a lot better, lots better. And even if you don't believe it, it's good to hear it gets better.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think if there's anything that you should take away is be a ally, be kind to the people around you. If you see someone struggling, show up for them, you know, and in any capacity. And I hope that the same love and kindness is also extended to you if you're going through something. Thank you, Trinetra. You are just such a force of light. You have so much honesty. I think there is a certain amount of bravery and courage that it takes to be yourself and move through the world, being so authentic to who you are as a person. And it is something that all of us can learn something from. So thank you so much for being who you are. Really, it means it's always just inspiring to sit in a room with you. And just also like stunning because you always look so incredible.
Hello, I'm Vicky Kaushal. You know, every group has the funny guy or the funny girl. They are the worst comedian in the world. The life of the party is never a comedian. Sitting in the corner looking at the life of the party saying, what a fucking... Like, you know, that's the comedian. My friend and I had a crush on the same girl, but I never told him. Now they are dating and I have to third wheel with them.
Wow.
Bro, you wait until she's sad one day. I don't know if your parents not being proud of what you're doing doesn't mean that your parents aren't proud of who you are. It's possible that they're very proud of the person you are and maybe not proud of the choice you just made. Please, at all times in your life, understand the difference between connection and engagement. They are two very, very, very different things. 1,000 likes doesn't mean anybody cares about you. But one person at your doorstep means that they care about you more than those 1,000 people.
I wanted to actually come to that and ask you, when did you, Veed, start embracing stupidity as a thing that
When I started getting paid for it.
This is for you all. I hope that it helps you in some way. You are not alone. You are never alone. As we have established, there's always someone to help. If there are not people in your life, there are resources online that I'm going to talk about. So if you're going through something, there is a Brave Together website. It's a website with resources on that encourage open and honest conversation about anxiety and depression. That website, you can just Google it, you will find it. Brave Together is the name. You can also take the BraveTalk training. So if you see the QR code over here, this is a training for anyone who wants to learn about mental health resources. If you want to be a caregiver, or for that matter, if you want, this is also for self-care, it can help you yourself. So just scan this QR code and you will get it. If you feel alone, there's also a helpline by Empower, and that helpline will provide one-on-one support for anyone 24/7. So if you don't have anyone to talk to in your lives, if you feel like there is a lack of a friend, lack of a ally, somebody who can be there for you, Empower is definitely going to have someone who is going to be talking to you one-on-one. I'm going to read out that number. It's 1800-120-820050. I mean, outside of this, I really want to again thank Maybelline New York. This chat show is brought together by Maybelline New York's Global Brave Together initiative that aims at normalizing and destigmatizing conversations around mental health. This is not the only initiative they're doing. This is one of many initiatives that run across the world around normalizing conversations about mental health. So again, hugely grateful to them as well. And I also want to just now take your leave. Thank you so much. My name is Nikhil Taneja. It was so nice being here among all of you. And this was Brave Talk with Nikhil and Friends. So thank you again, my friend.
Thank you.